Welcome to the Millionaires mini-series with your hosts Stephanie Keith and Stacy Failing, here to set you up with the most luxurious version of yourself. This podcast is filled with wealthy women vibes and a sneak peek into the millionaire's lifestyle. Whether you're in our millionaire's dreams of taking private jets to deserted islands or you prefer the lighter side of luxury, we have an opportunity for you that is priceless.
Come join us as we share with you all of our juicy money secrets, mindset hacks, and so much more. Money may not buy happiness, but it can provide you with an abundant life beyond your wildest dreams. So turn up the volume, adjust your crown, and get ready to embrace your inner millionaire-ess. Hello, and welcome back to the Millionaire-ess Mindset Podcast. We have one of our special alumni from the mastermind with us today. And Silvia has quite a story to share. And honestly, I didn't know the backstory until just recently, and it's just so inspiring. And so I'm so excited to have her on to share her story on like her background, where she came from, and how she was able to shift her circumstances and not let that define where she's going and what she's doing now. So Silvia, welcome to the show. Go ahead and introduce yourself and share whatever it is that you want to.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So I'm from Brazil, from Rio, which is a city that a lot of people know, are familiar with, Ipanema and Copacabana Beach, all very nice, beautiful areas. But I grew up in, I think it would be considered like the projects, or like very far away from where all the buses and where the beaches are. It was probably like an hour and a half away from all that. And it's an area that is kind of forgotten too, like the governments and, they just don't pay attention to that area because it's not on a, like a hot spot, for tourists or anything like that. So they do the minimum there. And when I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, it was a place where you really you just had the basics, even the basics sometimes would be hard, like to see like sewage system. That's something that even in Brazil nowadays, you don't have it everywhere. Like you can you can see the sewage going down. It's like, so where I lived, there were some parts that I could see that the streets, none of them had asphalt. So it was very or houses that are not fully built because they couldn't afford to build the whole house, they stopped halfway through. So a totally different reality from what you see in those nice areas of Rio. But since my dad was in the military, we traveled, for a few years. We moved, we lived in the Amazon. We lived in central part of Brazil. And when we moved back to Rio, I was 14 years old. Then I was in high school, about to join high school. And my dad, since he was in the army, and we lived in the Amazon, which is kind of considered a risky area, to live, obviously, at the borders, with Venezuela and all that. So we were able to join this military school, which wasn't not like a military academy or anything like that, but they had the military system of most of the children were from military families, and it was a very good school, but it was one hour away at least from where we lived. And my dad was very I want to put you guys there because you can go study there without doing any exam, anything. You can just go because we lived in far, in the Amazon, we have that right. So you should go. My mom was kind of hesitant because it was too far and we were young, teenagers, and we would have to be on a bus, public transportation by ourselves for an hour. But my dad said, no, they have to go. So we did. And wow, it just opened up my eyes to the whole other, because it was in a nice area of Rio with very nice neighborhoods. And most of my friends, they were from the military as well, the parents, but they were in higher ranks. So they had more, they lived in nicer areas. And when I went there, I was like, wow, look at this place. It's just so everywhere, streets are clean and it's so nice. So that was in 92. And I graduated in 95, and during that whole time I was there, I was always how nice is it? I want to be here. I would spend my whole day there actually, and just come back home in the evenings. And then I went to college, and it was around the same area as well. And then I started working. So everything was in that side of the city. And always, every time I came back home, I felt like I don't belong here. This is not, even though my family grew up there and we were very like good family, like unit, everybody lived close. And we were raised like with very good values. So, like working hard, like people. And we saw a lot of things happen with other kids around who just studied in those public schools that were failing schools. And some of them went into like drugs and drug cartels, and some of them would get killed and all that, like teenager boys. It was hard to see, but I just, I just kept my mind like, I know this is, I'm not going to stay here. At some point I'm going to move, but it's okay that I'm here now. It was not like I was jealous of my friends who had more, or that I was like bitter and that I want to be somewhere else. I was just like, you know what, it's okay. When time comes, I was just kind of like enjoying being around the beauty of like, every time I went to Copacabana and Ipanema and I saw like the mountains and the beach and the smell of the ocean, I was like, oh my God, this is so nice. It was just like, made me get inspired. I had that feeling of like, just feel good feeling. So many years passed, and I was, again, like always like hanging out in that area. And my brother started dating this girl who had a friend who was moving from another state to study in Rio in college. And then she was looking for a roommate. That was in 2002. And she was going to live right in the nice area that I wanted to be. And she was looking for a roommate to share a studio. And it wasn't that expensive at all. And I was working at the time. I was like, oh my God, that's my chance. So I got to live with her in one of the nicest areas of Rio. I could not believe it when I was there, going like grocery shopping, like, am I really here? Is this real? It was amazing. Like that after so many years, I didn't even go to like downtown, like kind of like a slow growth, like changing, moving to like a little bit of a nicer area. No, I went from like 0 to 100, because if you saw where I came from, and it was a very unsafe area too. So yeah, so that's my story in Rio, like, going through really like tough times and just having the basics. We just, it's a third world country anyway. Brazil is like that still. So we don't have, like you just had, we would never eat out, like go to restaurants. That never happened. My family had the money just for like food and like basic needs. Nobody would go like going to restaurants. Mm-hmm. And until I moved here, that's when I actually saw like the whole more of the other side of what wealth is.
Oh my gosh, this is so inspiring. And I love the whole idea of you being exposed to this other area and just kind of soaking it all up, because I did that for a long time myself. And I always recommend that people do this, like find, the luxurious part of town or whatever, and just go there. Like, even if it's just to get coffee or just to window shop, just putting yourself in this other environment. I think there's such a energetic shift that happens. It's like you go from one extreme to the other, because now you see a new possibility that you never saw before. And mm-hmm. for you, it's just such an extreme shift. And I think growing up here in the United States, it's so hard for me to realize like that people, grow up without even like a sewage system. I mean, it's something you just don't think about. And the fact that you could, go from that and then completely like shift to this other lifestyle is pretty remarkable. And I think that's kind of like proof that it doesn't really matter where you come from or what your external circumstances are. It's more about your mindset and what you decide you want for your life. Do you agree?
Yeah. Yes, 100%. I remember my grandma saying like, well, this girl has a spirit of like a wealthy person. She would laugh at that, because I was always like, Grandma, I don't want to be here. Like, this is not, sorry, like, I don't want to, like, I want to live in a nicer. And she was always like joking about it. But yeah, you treat everybody nice, like not everybody has the same opportunities. And sometimes they just don't even want to change, I have my family, like cousins and uncles who still live there, and they're fine with it. The same house from the 70s, still there. But for me, it was like, I wanted more. And you can really go, like, if you want to, you just get inspired, look for what is you're aiming for, and go for it. And you can do it, surround yourself by all that energy, that abundance. It happens. It's not quick, right? Like, it takes time, but it will happen if you want to.
And one thing that stood out to me while you were telling this story, Silvia, is how grateful you were. And it made me, just knowing, like Steph said, growing up in the United States, how ungrateful we can be. And so it's just humbling to hear a story like yours and having your mindset always be around gratitude. You always knew, you were so patient with, you knew at some point this was going to be a life for you, but you didn't rush. You weren't wishing your way out of the circumstance that you were in. You just made the best of it. And that says a lot about you as a person. And that was what I kept hearing over and over, was just the gratitude. And I think that helps tremendously when you're trying to shift your mindset into something bigger and better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the fact that you said you weren't getting jealous of your schoolmates that had more than you, like, that's really big too, because gratitude and jealousy are like on two opposite ends of the spectrum. And it really does shift your whole energetic vibrations. So the fact that you just like went at it with this mindset and you were like in the moment and appreciating the smell of the ocean and the view of the mountains, it's like such a great way to tap into that high vibrational energy. So what was the next part then? Like, when did you decide, okay, now I'm ready to move to the United States and like continue this journey?
Well, yeah, it was interesting because then I moved to that nice area there, to near Copacabana in Ipanema. And then I started like just hanging out at the bars and nightclubs. I was in a previous, like a long relationship before that I broke up, and like we broke up like a year, I think. After a year, I started just dating an American that I met right in the, like in Ipanema area, actually in a pub. And we started dating, having like the long distance relationship for about 2 years. And then in 2005, like he came to visit me, like went to Brazil, and then I came one time. It was like that kind of, so in 2005, I moved here for good, like to like really work on the getting married. Just like, we wouldn't even do a real wedding, it was just like signing the papers, living together and see how it goes. However, well, that could be a whole nother podcast, book, because, oh my God, the guy, I mean, I had some red flags about him, but never experienced anything like that in Brazil or like with my circle of friends and previous relationships. And this guy turned out to be like awful, like a real predator, I would say, like that type of person. Yeah, he was abusive in all senses, like cheating on me, doing all kinds of things. So we stayed together for 1 year, and it was a nightmare of a time. But I made some good friends there during that time. Thank God. It was a small group, especially like I didn't know. I mean, I knew English kind of okay, but like you're new in the country, and then you're dealing with someone you can't trust. You don't know what to expect the next day. And then I realized that he told me later that he was like had a tough childhood as well. So I'm like, oh, that's why you're like this then. It just continues to carry on, like you just can't break that cycle. So after 1 year of that, so I said like, that's it, moving out. I had no place to live. He took all the money out of our joint account. So thankfully, that's when I started working. I found a job that was a night shift job from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I stayed there for like 2 years, doing translations and like customer service, Brazilian Portuguese content. And I was lucky I had that job because it was in that same month that we split up, and I had to live in a motel for a whole week with no money in my account, with a credit card that I had that he opened actually using my Social Security. And later on, I found out I had $25,000 debt under my name, and he furnished the whole house for him, and he bought, like, it was all intentional. So I'm like, oh my God, how, like, I couldn't believe all that was going on, like, without money, without a place to live. I had a coworker who was also Brazilian, and she barely knew me, but she knew I didn't have a place to stay. I was staying at a motel, and she just said, like, Silvia, live with me until you find a place, you rent a room, and it's fine. You can just, like, it's a tiny apartment, but just, you can stay there. So I'm like, okay, great. So I can kind of relax a little bit. Started looking for a place, found a room later on. But it was a tough time for me to go through, to kind of, like, I felt that I was just pretty much defending myself from attacks from all directions, because he was trying to screw me in every way he could, like, and I had to go to court and get that settlement of this whole $25,000 bill that was ruining my credit, So eventually he had to pay. But again, like, I think I felt like I was kind of like numb. I didn't hate him. I knew he hated me. I feel like, because I left him, and the guy is like, oh, I brought you all the way to the US and you leave me like this. And my mom was saying, like, go back. What are you doing there? Why are you still, you have no place to live. You don't have, this guy is he's a jerk. Just go back. Your family is here. And I said, Mom, I didn't leave everything behind, my job, my family, to just go back defeated like that. And that's all that he wants. I'm not going back. At the motel I was in, I told her, I'm not going back. That's fine. Everything's going to work out. Don't worry. So time goes by, I continued in that job. Thank God, like, I could stay there for a while. Started dating again. And I just had very good boyfriends after that too. They really helped me in different ways. Like, one had an old car, and I didn't have a car at the time. So he let me use his car for the longest time until I was able to buy one. And after the relationship didn't work out, and I started dating another guy who actually paid off my credit card. He said, I'm going to help you pay. You pay me every month later, but I'll just pay so that you don't have to have your credit ruined and all the interest rates. So I got a lot of help along the way. And eventually all that was, like, part of my past. He moved to, like, God knows where. And then I met my husband, and who's now my husband. Yeah. And then things started going the right way. But, like, yeah, it was intense. It was kind of crazy.
You got thrown in the ringer.
Yeah, no
Huh?
kidding.
Oh,
and you're such a good person too. It's, like, so hard to hear that someone was so awful, and like how strong you had to be, because if that were me, I don't know that I would have been able to do it. Like, I probably would have wanted to go back to my family. Like, did you ever have a moment of giving up, or you were just determined?
Well, one of the first fights that I realized he was cheating on me, like, through emails that I found and stuff like that, I was about to go. Like, I actually packed up my stuff. I was already, like, going to take the train and go to Brazil. And then he picked me up, and I came back. So, like, okay, let's try this again, but I was going to go. I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to go. And we tried again. But after I moved out, it was a kind of like, I'm not going to give him that pleasure. It was me not wanting to, like everything that I left behind and having to start all over again. Like, no, I'm here. I made it here. I have a job now. I know I can do much more. I can grow professionally, and I'm not gonna give him this pleasure. No, I'm not gonna. So there was more like kind of being stubborn and like, I can do this, That's why I stayed. And eventually I found an even better job, like at Cisco, and I worked as a translator there as well. And then it went from there. But yeah, there were times that, especially with my mom saying, go back, Yeah.
I think that's such a good mindset to have. Like, when people treat you wrong or are rooting against you, instead of caving into that, like, using that as fuel towards making your dreams happen, to like, because it can go one way or the other. It can break you, or you can use that as motivation. And, like, that's amazing that you did. So then you were at Cisco working as a translator. when did you have this shift and get more into spirituality?
So I've always had this side, of me that it's always liked spirituality. And in Brazil, it's a common thing. You can have most of the people there are Catholic, either Catholics or evangelicals, but they have this, it's easy to be connected or be into spirituality and like the spirit realm. It's very common. My grandmother did it. And there is also the African religions there as well, that you kind of mix all of them together. They have their gods and goddesses, which are kind of equivalent to the saints in the Catholic Church. So we would go to like places like that where they did the African like rituals and things, praying to their goddess and we were like talking to spirits, women like kind of shamans, I would say. They would channel and give you information. It was like amazing. I always like that since teenager all the way, especially after my brother passed away, because he passed away in a car crash suddenly when he was 23. And after that, I just started like having very vivid dreams and try to really go like deeper into that to understand more like why things like that happen and what is out there in the other side. So I would never think that in the US I would be able to find anything like that, any people or person who were really interested in that stuff, because in Brazil it's common, but here I thought like, no, they don't believe in that stuff. Like Americans are not really into that. So I actually, through a friend of mine, she knew someone who did intuitive touch healing. And I was living in Mountain View at the time. This person lived in the East Bay of the Bay Area, like far away. But I did some sessions with her and she told me she was going to a spiritual school in the East Bay. I was living far away. So I'm like, okay, fine, but there's no way I can go to that school. Well, like I meet my husband now, like he lived in San Francisco. We lived in San Francisco for a while. And then we moved to the East Bay. And I didn't even know anyone there in this Walnut Creek area, Lafayette area. And there, sure enough, it's like 10 minutes away, that school, the spiritual school. So I went there 2014 and did a whole program. And I really started like getting tuned more and more and learning how to do readings and, to see the aura and read all that. Yeah, it was just like, and I guess when it's meant to be, like you just get like guided towards that direction. Yeah, so that's when I completely left. Like I stopped working when I got pregnant with my second child, stopped working for Cisco and started developing the side. And I said, I think that's what I like to do. Yeah.
I love how you follow your intuition every step of the day of the way. And it seems like you almost had, guardian angels or something, just kind of like helping you with all these different people that would cross your path, throughout your life and have all these little opportunities come up. But it seems like you just flow with it so easy. Like it doesn't sound like you put too much pressure on it. You're just kind of like, okay, I can't go to that school because I live too far. But then you end up like moving there, like it just kind of flowed naturally and you weren't trying to force the situation or anything. So it's like you really manifested every aspect of it, I feel like.
Yeah. And for the listeners, Silvia, do you want to just tell everybody what it is that you are doing now? To give a little bit more of a context to what we're talking about when we are saying spirituality.
Oh, yeah. So I do aura readings now, read the energy around your space and see which spirit guides are with you at the moment. And I look at past lives and programmings, that are affecting you right now, like spirit, like energy of other people. They're always constantly in our space. And sometimes you're not aware. A lot of fear that we have comes also from relatives, from people who already passed away, and it just continues, in our space. So like I help you, my client, like just clear all that energy, because then they can see easier and with more certainty, like what they want to go, what they want to do. They're not influenced by all these energies. Sometimes you're just channeling beings without knowing, being a transmitter, because a lot of people are transmedium, they just channel without knowing, they're angry, constantly angry, but it's not them being angry. It's like this spirit that they're channeling. So I just like help them become aware of all that. And we do a lot of like clearing of all that energy in the sessions. And I love it. It's a lot of fun. I started doing it more professionally now.
I love that because it feels like it aligns with who you are as a person, just hearing your story and you being so intuitive. And now you're able to be intuitive with others and helping them become more intuitive. But it's just like, we're all energy and you help shift that energy. But I think you were always aware of your own energy, and that kind of led you into this place now where you can help other people heal their energy. And I think that's just this crazy full circle, and not even, like Steph said, not forcing anything, not even knowing what direction you were going to go in, but it just sounds like it all happened so organically. And of course, not without trials and tribulations and all the struggles and things that we all have to go through to get there. But like that whole story that you just shared was leading up to this place that you were really supposed to be at. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, I know. It's just, and I just realized how much I love it. Am I happy? I'm lucky enough that my husband also supported, because, like sometimes I have friends who do readings with me and their husbands don't know about it because they don't like it. They think it's like, oh, it's so woo-woo. But he does. I actually gave him a remote reading, and I just told him later, said, I'm going to give you a quick reading and see what's going on, because he was stressed with work. And after that, he won a bid, a very big bid that he was, because he works in construction. And then later on, he got second place for a bid. And like a month later, they contacted him saying, like, actually, you were picked because something happened with the first place, and you just got this huge big bid in like another region near us here. So it was just like that. It's like, oh, by the way, we just got 2 huge bids in like a week. I said, you see, sometimes
that doesn't make a believer out of you.
He said, I think you did something, didn't you? Like, I know you did something there. I said, yeah, I did, but I don't know if I want to take credit for that. But it helps, definitely helps,
Oh, absolutely. So do you still have your vivid dreams?
I do. Like, sometimes I don't understand what they are, but with my brother, they kind of like slowly became less and less. Sometimes I see him and we say, like, we talk, but it's less and less with him. I maybe because in the beginning, I feel like it's just they need to communicate with you and make sure you understand that everything is fine, because that was a whole process of him just like really telling me, like, tell my mom, tell dad, it's okay, I'm fine. I have good guides, because he had guides when I saw him. Like, he had people with him that I've never seen before. So I still have dreams like that. And when I do, sometimes I wait to see what happens. Like I had a very interesting one with my grandma and lots of relatives around too, but it was a happy dream. If it was like kind of like people were sad, I would be like, oh, I don't know. Sometimes you have signs like that. But yeah, I'm always paying attention. And I realize that the more you're connected with your spirituality, the more vivid dreams you have, the more you're able to like recall everything.
Yeah, my mom has dreams like that. And I try to tell her, like, I really don't think it's a dream. I think you're communicating, but like you said, it's like a lot of people here in the US just kind of, we grew up not really believing in all of that, or having different, religious views that maybe conflict with that a little bit. So I think sometimes we have a connection and we put sort of a block up because of all these beliefs that we grew up with.
Yeah.
But I do think that, she's like tapping in through her dreams for sure. And so I'm always fascinated when I hear other people having really vivid dreams like that.
Yeah. And it's so great when you actually decide to look into it and see, like, well, this is, it's very empowering too, like to see what is out there. Because I know I have some friends too who they know I do readings, but they totally ignore when I say it. like, oh yeah, sure, like I don't want to go there. A lot of people are fearful of it too. I don't know, but I think it's great to be able to do that. Then your intuition grows so much. Like you're so in tune with things that happen around you. I think I'm realizing in everything that I do that I think about someone or I think about something and then it happens like a minute later. And I was talking to my teacher about it, and she said, yeah, like the more that you do psychic work, the more these things become common, and it's just going to be like your day to day, like it's normal. I'm thinking about this person, she's going to call me, or, it just
My
goes like
mom
that.
does that too. She knows who's calling when the phone rings. And like, she's always been that way. And she's like, well, I don't want to tell
my
people
God.
that because they're going to think I'm crazy. And I'm like, that's so cool.
Tell her to have a reading with me.
Yeah, I am. She definitely should, because you guys would have a lot to talk about for sure.
Yeah.
Sylvia,
So
we
can you
talk a lot.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. In the mastermind, and what we do, we talk a lot about the law of attraction and the subconscious. And do you find that the work that you're doing kind of coincides with that subconscious, especially like the vivid dreams and things like that? Have you noticed any connection with that, with the work that you do in the spirituality space?
Yeah, I think it's all really connected. It just makes it easier for me, I think, like knowing that it's, oh, okay, there's another layer of it, of like working with the subconscious mind and like try to I think the mastermind for me was mainly like seeing my limited beliefs that I had, just really coming everything up to surface, like, wow, I'm scared of this, I'm scared of that. I'm becoming aware and try to clear that all out, so I think that was essential for me to be open to actually starting to create a podcast with a friend of mine that I can't believe it's actually going to happen soon. We're working on it and we're having fun with it. But if it wasn't for the mastermind, no, I wouldn't have done any of that, or making me get more inspired to really focus on like an Instagram page for my spiritual business and, website and things like that. So it was great in that sense that it's like lifting up, like open up a box and see all the potential that I have, that I wasn't using it. It was just there hidden with a lot of like fear and, insecurities, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. And no, I think actually I should, I can. So yeah, it was great. I just love the connection. Everything worked together in a beautiful way.
I love how like I always try to convince people to start a podcast and no one ever wants to initially, but they all end up doing it. Like I plant that seed. I'm like, yes, you can. And I just love like all these podcasts are starting and I'm like, yes, like I'm so excited because it's just like, it's such a great thing to like put all this out there, and your energy is so great too. Like, and it's going to be amazing. I can't wait to listen.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Silly podcast, I'll say. Just
we need that. We need the lightness.
Yeah.
Everything has to be so serious. So yeah, we need more of that.
Yeah.
Can people book virtual sessions with you?
Well, they can send me an email at theintuitiveseeker.com, theintuitiveseeker@gmail.com, or just call me. My phone number, I think it's on my Instagram page, which is also theintuitiveseeker.com. And they can send me messages through Instagram as well. I can respond to it, and then you just book sessions. I do it over the phone. It can be through Zoom. It doesn't in person, it doesn't really matter. It's just works either way. Yeah.
Well, I'm booking my mom a session. So
yes, please.
I'm
curious
her.
now.
I love it. Yeah. I'm curious too. Oh, Silvia, thank you so much for coming on. Your story is so inspiring. And I can't believe that I knew you for like weeks before I knew this whole background. And then I was like, whoa, this is just insane. And I really hope, I know it's going to motivate other people and just show them what's possible no matter where they came from. So thanks for sharing that. And we'll put everything in the show notes so people can connect with you. And can't wait to hear the podcast.
Yay. Thank you, ladies. It was great. I loved it.
Thanks, Silvia.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Really quick before we go, if you resonated with Silvia's story, make sure that you reach out, connect with her on social media. If you're looking for a personal reading, go ahead and drop her an email. All of her information is in the show notes for you. And if you're looking for exponential growth, regardless of what direction you're going in and what your next step is, make sure to take action today and not wait a moment longer to see the change that is already within you. Make sure to join us for the next round of this mastermind. The doors of enrollment close this weekend. So if you want to level up and 10x the next 6 weeks, you want to have a deep dive with us, have a support group of amazing women who are doing the thing with you, that are cheering for you, that you can go to and talk about your goals and the struggles and the things. And people in this group get it. And we're there to help you. We're there to cheer you on. The energy is so high vibe. This is a lifetime group of women that is going to be behind you throughout your entire journey. So this doesn't end after 6 weeks. We just dig really deep in these 6 weeks to get yourself out of your own way so that you can make the rest of 2023 your year. So make sure to join us. All the information is in the show notes as well. And we will see you on the inside as well as back here next week for another episode.